Hey, Thomas, how's it going, bud?
Really good, Richie. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Right
Busy,
on.
busy weeks. How
Oh,
was your
I know.
weekend?
It was good.
Yeah.
It's been just steady at work, and we didn't do too much. We went to the monster trucks
Yeah,
at the fair. Did you get to go to the fair?
I did not know.
Oh, too bad.
I'm not a big fair guy.
Yeah.
Just I just looking at the rides makes me sick, so I just gave up on it.
I know. We didn't even do any of the rides this time. We just walked around and pet the animals and
Yeah.
watched the people. It's there's a lot of
Wow, you have grown, Thomas.
yeah. I know. I feel it. I feel it.
Yeah.
The monster trucks were cool. We got rained out pretty hard though.
Yeah.
It's the first time I went to the monster trucks, but people say it's a lot. It used to be a lot better. I don't know if you ever went or ever had a chance to go.
No, I've never really had a chance, but yeah, the fair, I mean, just for the food or something, but I think I've outgrown that. So, and then my kid's still
Yeah.
really young, so my oldest went with her friends. Obviously, she don't want to hang out with dad,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and it's just getting more expensive every year. Last year, dude, oh my gosh, they brought the prices down on it this time, but last year, me and Jenny went and we got the corn on the cob
yeah,
with it had like chip dust on it, like Cheeto dust
yeah,
or whatever, and there's like different flavors or
mayo
whatever.
and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we got that. Can you guess how much two of those cost?
I bet you paid $20.
Dude, $30 for
What the
two
heck?
corn cobs. dude.
Damn, dude. That's a save me a piece of that corn,
Yeah,
huh?
literally nobody in the line when we got in line.
Oh,
They don't tell you the price either until after they're already handing it to you,
Yeah.
basically.
yeah, that's smart actually.
Yeah, it was.
Um,
Apparently a lot of other people were wise to it. Like I said, we were the only ones in line when we got stepped up. The fair's
those
the
guys
fair
that-
is kind of a freaking scam.
Oh,
Yeah,
those guys
everybody
in line
knows,
were all
so.
like, "Ah, look at those suckers!
Yeah,
paying
yeah,
$30."
I know.
Hey, at
I'm
least
like,
was it good? At least.
I liked it okay. Jenny didn't really like it very
Oh
much.
God, that's
but-
even worse. Than
Yeah.
paid $30 and then
So it's okay. It's okay. We learned our lesson for sure.
Well, what are we drinking today? Some Buffalo Trace.
Is that a
What'd you think
bourbon?
about it?
Oh, it was good. It was
Yeah.
good. I mixed it with a little bit of this cream soda here. It was,
Yeah.
it was nice.
I really, it's one of my. I'm a big bourbon guy, so I
Are
really
you?
enjoy
Yeah,
bourbon.
I was kind of getting into the rum. Have you ever tried that Kraken bottle?
Oh yeah, that's
It's like
pretty
looks
good.
like an octopus on
Yeah.
it or whatever. Yeah, I've been getting that like almost
Dude,
every
that
time
one's
now.
tough. That one's tough.
Yeah, it's good.
It's like-
So, yeah.
It's I don't know how much
you get
proof it
96
is.
proof.
Is it 96?
Yeah.
God. Yeah, that one's tough.
Yeah, yeah.
This is only
I've developed
45, so we're good.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Nah.
I've developed a problem, so I need to
Yeah.
get it under control.
You
Probably.
need to lower your proof.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, cheers
Cheers.
to this episode here. This episode's going to be an interesting one because it's going to be a lot. It's going to be
Yeah.
a tough one to
Really dark story.
a
man.
really dark story, really tough to listen to. So,
Yeah.
any viewers
Dude.
out there that are not ready for this one, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, definitely some discretion advised. It's a brutal story. If anybody's heard of Amelia Dyer, who in the 19th century?
Yeah, in 19th
century in England, Bristol, England, is where she was born. I think she had maybe one other sister, and who passed away young. She had her mother and father, who her father was a shoemaker, and she was really well off as a child, during the time before her parents passed. And she was able to get an education and learn to read and write, and had, an affinity for poetry and literature.
She was pretty intelligent.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
intelligent.
She was.
Isn't that crazy?
Mm,
How people end up like people that are in poverty and struggle in life end up being better off sometimes than people that have a good family life.
yeah.
Yeah, because
I don't-
her family life wasn't, bad.
No.
Because back then in that era, it was hard to
Yeah.
get out of that kind of poverty.
It kind of developed into something more difficult after her father passed
Mm-hmm.
because her mother had a condition called typhus, I
Mhm.
guess is what they call it, which I'm not sure. I didn't read into too much about typhus, but it basically, she developed like some type of other mental illnesses because of this typhus disease that her mother had. And
Oh, so she inherited it.
well, no, Amelia didn't inherit
Oh,
it.
okay.
No, her mother just had it. I don't know
Mhm.
I don't know exactly what typhus is. I didn't get a chance to too much research that, but it affected her mentally, and I think that Amelia had to kind of take care of her, which also like I think contributed to some of her insanity. I feel like
Yeah.
she pleaded insanity in her case, and
Mhm.
I wouldn't doubt it. Just the crimes that she committed, that she had to have a screw loose somewhat.
Yeah, and well, the crazy part is when she graduated, she became a nurse, so she was
Yeah.
well
Yeah,
educated.
it wasn't like she was like totally insane. She
Yeah,
knew what she was doing, but she was a smart lady.
yeah.
She was.
So what she
Yeah.
did was, well, I
Hmm.
guess we'll tell everybody. She is known for murdering 400 babies,
Yeah.
400 foster
Yeah.
babies. What she would do is
She was
she
only
would,
convicted though of what, like six though, but I
oh,
think that
they
they
estimated,
estimate though
yeah, at
like
400.
a lot.
So,
Yeah.
so what would happen back in the day? People that couldn't provide for their family, because poverty back then was pretty bad. I mean, just as
Oh
probably
yeah.
worse if like the Depression era, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just as bad, and they couldn't provide for their kids, having kids, and
Yeah.
back then they
Especially
didn't.
it was I think it was like what, like single mothers.
Single mothers and then
And
fathers too who didn't work. They couldn't provide
yeah.
either. They didn't have like the medicine we have today. The
Yeah.
day after pill and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
don't know if they even
Yeah.
had abortion back then. I'm not sure.
Right. Or like what people's like knowledge was in
Yeah,
terms of
what
like
knowledge was.
having
So if you're
being
pregnant,
careful,
yeah,
about having kids
if
is
yeah, there
it
was no
wasn't.
kind of protection back
Yeah.
then. So if you're pregnant, you're pregnant. There's nothing you can do about it.
Hmm.
And a lot of people would. It wasn't uncommon to give away your baby back then.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot
Which
of
is
people
weird.
did
This
that.
was like an industry, that
Yeah,
developed.
yeah, they call
What
it
they call it, baby farming.
baby farming. Yeah,
Hmm.
and so what she did was she would take these babies, and people would say, well, she has a nursing degree. She's smart, intelligent lady. What we looked at her picture, she didn't look very nice, but
Right.
but so they would trust her, say, okay, here's the
Hmm.
baby, and I'm sure you can find a good home for the baby.
Yeah. Which
So
was, I'm sure it was hard for people, to you're giving up your child and just trusting some random person that they're going to take care of them.
yeah,
And so what would happen is they would give them their child, give them some money, and depending on how much money you had too, I guess, if you were more impoverished, it was something of what they said like £5, which I don't know
hmm
how much money that would be in American dollars back then. And then you had the well-off people who had more money who, for I'm sure various reasons, didn't want to have the child. Obviously they could probably afford it, but they would charge them
hmm
like £80, which I guess the average income for that time period for that area was 30, like 20, like I think they said like 30 to 40 pounds or
hmm
25 to 30 pounds. So that's a huge amount of money. 80
Oh yeah,
pounds,
80 pounds in the mid 1800s was a very
huge
yeah,
amount.
it
Yeah.
was a lot
So
of money.
uh what did you have? I mean, what did you what I don't know what the reasons were for people had. I'm sure like, I mean, various reasons, but it was a huge,
hmm
kind of scheme. And obviously, there was a lot of area to work the system so to say, to kind of like dirty dealings, I guess.
Yeah.
There was a lot of areas for people to because either you might come check up on your child. They did have people come and check on their childs,
Well,
and
I heard
children.
she would strangle them and then keep them for a couple days in case the parent just came back to
Mm.
check on the child, which that makes no sense to me because
She would strangle them and then keep
yeah,
their body.
she would keep the body for days and until her body kind of decomposed,
Oh.
and then she would throw them away in the river. But she would say, well, they're sleeping, or that she would have them covered up, or whatever the
Oh.
case may be. So they would look out the window. I mean, she was very, like I said, she wasn't a very dumb human being, but when they were looking out the window, maybe somebody might have suspicions. They can tell, oh, okay, the
Mm.
baby's in the crib there, or something like that.
Yeah.
So she would, yeah, she wouldn't murder them right away. And there was times that she would throw them in
Yeah.
the river
Yeah.
right away.
Because what I was reading was it was typical for somebody in this line of work. You would contact a doctor when you'd have a death, so that you could fill out a death certificate or something like that. You'd report the death in some way. And that was one of the reasons why she got in trouble. She was reporting so many deaths.
Yeah.
And it became suspicious. Somebody, because she had so many deaths, they became suspicious. One of the doctors, because I don't know if she was contacting the same doctor every time, but I mean, it's like, oh, after the 50th kid, I'm going to start asking some questions.
Yeah,
But
that was a gray line for me because when I did some research on it, made no sense why it took this long for any kind of authority to find out what this lady was doing.
yeah, again, I don't know how many people did this baby farming,
Yeah.
so there must have been more deaths
Mhm.
from her than maybe Mary Sue down the road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
she's actually notorious for the murdering infants. Like,
yeah, she'd get tired, I guess, is what
yeah.
they said, is what I read, that she just didn't want to wait for them to starve, because it wasn't just her, that was uh, doing like nefarious things. She
Mhm.
was probably the worst offender, I would
Oh
say.
yeah.
But there's like an actual drug. I can't remember I think they like the street name or whatever for it was called Mother's Friend. And it was
Mm.
to help the kids not feel hungry, but also still starve to death. Basically get used to starving to death.
Whoa, dude, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That
hmm
is
And then
torture.
and then the people that couldn't get their hands on that drug, they would use alcohol
Hmm.
to kind of mirror that drug.
Yeah. How fucked up in the head do you have to be? Like, because for someone to do so many killings and so many crimes, you can't have any remorse. I mean, you can't have
Yeah.
anything. Like, something in your brain has to, like, shut off.
Right. She had kids of her own. You'd think that she'd have some
She
type
tried to
of
murder
remorse.
her kids as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why she got a divorce from her
Oh, I thought
first
it was just she
husband.
was getting so much heat
No,
from the baby farming.
no, she didn't get
Because I
her
know
husband.
she was skipping town a few different times
Yeah.
to escape the authorities. What I read.
So from what I understood, her husband's the one that, because he was always around, that's why she never did it. But it was always an intent for her to just murder her children because she didn't want those children. Because
Wow.
she said because she never got paid for them. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
No, I didn't read that part.
see, that's what I'm saying. How fucking twisted is your head?
Yeah.
You're not getting paid, so you want to just murder your own children. So
Interesting,
she got divorced,
interesting.
and then she married again, and then she became, her last name was then Dyer.
Oh,
Yeah.
her original last name was not Dyer.
No, her
Oh.
original last name was so when she got married the first time, it was to George Thomas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so last name was Thomas, and then she married again after the divorce. It was William Dyer.
Mm.
So yeah,
So,
so that's pretty crazy. I
it
believe.
says here that her last name was Hobley when she was born.
Oh,
She was born as Amelia Elizabeth Hobley.
damn.
Okay,
So
that
yeah,
makes sense.
and then they threw her into a mental asylum too, as right? Is that right?
Yeah, I think that that was like originally what happened when she first got in trouble. So like there was that doctor that caught her, basically got suspicious because he got called out so many different times
Oh,
for dead
really?
kids.
So you think he was in part of it?
No, I don't think he was part of it. I think he became suspicious.
Mhm.
It's like, hey, this is the 30th kid that died. I better alert somebody about this.
Yeah.
About this lady. So I think that's when she got in trouble. The authorities got involved, and I think a judge sentenced her to a mental asylum for that, because I don't think they convicted her for
Not.
for deaths of children. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of time, I mean, this was not an uncommon thing. Like we said, other people were doing this, and a lot of times coroners and things like that would just say that uh, would they weren't well versed back then,
Mhm.
about health and whatnot, and like being able to being able to identify child abuse like they are now,
Yeah.
and
Well, back
and it
then.
wasn't uncommon even for like people's normal kids to die of starvation, and so I think that was what most of the time they were trying to make it look like when
Yeah.
the child would die. They would starvation would be like the thing that
If you
they
were in
could
a
get
lower
away with.
class back then, I mean, the expectations of a child being born over 10 was not very common.
Yeah, that's why when you look at um,
Or
average age,
live over 10.
yeah, the
mean,
average age of people back then was like 30 or something
Yeah.
like that, very young, because of all the infant death. And all the disease and things that we can kind of counteract now. We have a much lower infant death ratio, and people are washing their hands now, and we got uh, antibiotics to fight off infection, and because
Yeah.
those kind of things killed a lot of people.
Yeah, back then, medicine wasn't. I mean, you'd go to the barbers back then. You get your tooth pulled, your hair cut, your cavity search,
Mm.
whatever you can do. I mean, it wasn't as high end as it is now.
Yeah.
And yeah, their life expectation was crazy. But crazy thing about her too was that she, I kind of wish she was in this era, because if you open up that brain, it is not. It's going to be very different than a normal human brain, I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You
I'm
know.
sure. And in this era, I think there are people like her. We get it. I mean, if you want to think about it, I mean, she was just had the advantage, I guess, of being in that time. So it was easier to avoid authorities, and you don't have things like forensics and all that type of
Hmm.
thing to get you in trouble like you can now. So I think that people just get caught more. You got like who, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of smart killers out
Have you
there.
ever heard of the Angel of Death? It was a lady in
Yeah.
Italy. It was a lady in Italy who would inject the wrong medicine into her patients, and these were like
Mm,
old like an old folks home, and she would inject. It wasn't. I wasn't sure. I didn't really see the research what she injected, but she would inject obviously not the right medicine.
yeah.
Once they died, she would take selfies with them.
Mm,
Yeah, and she did this to like 300 elderly people.
what the heck?
Yeah, and this was in Italy. Yeah, the Angel of
Hmm.
Death, they used to call her.
Was
Yeah,
this post? Was this the 20th century?
yeah, it was in the 80s, I believe.
Oh, okay. So late 20th.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was yeah, she'd murder older people, and what she would do as
Mm.
well is when somebody would come and realize that they're dying, she would act like she was saving their life, knowing
Mm.
they're already dead.
Oh,
Yeah, that's some kind of psychological fuck in your head, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe she actually believed that. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm pulling the plug on these. They
Um,
didn't want to live any longer. Maybe I don't
yeah.
know.
But yeah, with Amelia Dyer, I mean, so after she was convicted, she
And how did they catch her?
well,
Yeah.
they found actually a picture of her taking a picture of selfie with someone. And back then they didn't have cell phones or anything, so it's kind of like a Polaroid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they found a picture of her.
Was it like in the newspaper or something like
Yeah.
that, or like advertising,
Yeah,
like for her
well,
baby farming?
I think she would just get off of it.
I know she used the newspaper to advertise.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
It's like drop your kids off. I'll take care of them. Uh,
But
I know. I heard also that there was because they found one of her dumped body because she would dump bodies in the river of children,
yeah,
and there was somebody who found one of the bodies, and in a suitcase, I think, because she eventually like skipped town to another place. I think it was where did she go to?
it's still in England though, right?
It was still in England. It
Yeah.
was just in a different area, but she. Let me see if I can find it
Yeah.
here.
Well, after she left, she ended up
Yeah.
she ended up getting hanged anyway.
Yeah. So that was after she was convicted. She was
Yeah.
convicted of 6 of the murders. They estimate, more than 300,
Yeah,
and up to 400.
400.
Yeah,
Can you
it's
imagine,
crazy.
dude?
Yeah.
400.
Oh my gosh, dude.
400 souls. Just what's the point of that? Like sometimes I wonder.
Money, man.
No, but I'm
He's
saying
getting a lot of money for
what's
those
the point
kids.
of life for that child? Like, what was the purpose of that child
Oh.
being born?
Mm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
You know what I
If you
mean?
want to get into that, that's a much deeper issue. So, and I am religious, so I
Mhm.
would have to people would say I'm probably jumping through a lot of hoops to say this, but I think that God is a real being, and why would God allow something like this to happen? So I do think that God limits his power. If just as like a quick, I don't want to get into it too much on
No,
this
go ahead.
episode, unless you want to.
Yeah,
I mean, we
go
can.
ahead. We can.
But I think God limits his power, in this world, just to maintain a level of free will, especially with a situation like this. I mean, obviously, that doesn't explain all the other things in terms of like why does a child get cancer or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, just through God limiting his power here, maybe that's just a byproduct. But I do think that God just isn't going to step in at every little thing. I
Yeah,
think there needs to
I
be a
don't.
level of like, well. So with Amelia Dyer, she made her choice,
Mhm.
and whatnot, and maybe she did have a screw loose or whatever. And if we want to explain away, people with insanity, and how does God account for that? I don't have every answer on that, but
My perspective in that
yeah,
is, it's called free will. We have free will to
yeah,
do anything in this world.
sure, yeah,
Um, we're not bound by chains or anything like that. So when someone does something, um, I think it's funny when they want to blame it on religion or they want to blame it on some cult that you're doing it because you want to do it. And one,
yeah,
because you're fucked up in the head, or two, is because that's the person you are.
yeah,
Um, and when it comes to religion and God and free will, I don't believe that has anything to do with each other.
yeah.
Because
Well,
if,
free will and religion,
yeah,
or
God,
just God allows us to have a free will is what
yeah,
I'm saying. But
because
yeah,
that's why we're so creative as human beings. That's why if we had free will, we can do AI. We have mechanical,
mm-hmm,
biology. We have
mm-hmm,
science. We have everything.
mm-hmm.
So if God would say, "Well, no, I don't want science, but I want biology," I mean, what kind of free will is that, right? And
Yeah,
then you got to look at it as the same thing when it comes to like murders, people that murder other people. You can't just pick, oh, God's going to save this person, but not this person. It makes
yeah,
no sense to
yeah.
me. So it's all free will of human,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that is what happens. Nobody knows, to be honest. Or
Yeah.
what do you think? What happens after that?
I think that we go to like a kind of a place of waiting and judgment afterwards of kind of like our true characters kind of
Mhm.
displayed to us, and we through how we've chosen, and I think that we still have like somewhat of some decisions to make after we die too, and if we still want to accept, you know, if we want to accept God, or if we want to go on and say no, we don't want to accept that
But
gift.
for someone like Amelia Dyer
Yeah.
that dies, I, I, I just don't see that how hard it can be
Mhm.
for what she did on Earth worse than what she's gonna get after life.
You're saying,
Does that make sense? Like what she
I
did on Earth and whatever happens in the afterlife, it can't. The punishment, I don't think, will be
will equate
equate to it
to like, yeah, so
because
like
that's 400 souls, 400
mm-hmm,
babies,
mm-hmm.
400 innocent children that had
Yeah.
no fault in
It's a great
whatsoever.
question, dude, and that's like something I don't know. Like
Yeah,
how does
I
God
don't think anybody
justify,
knows.
like what
Huh?
kind of punishment is just, to them? So you could look at it as like those 400 babies are going to get an eternity of life in God's presence, which is an eternity of happiness, and Amelia is going to get an eternity in darkness and separation from God.
Hmm.
So um, I feel like the chaos and death and the evil and everything that we get here on this earth is far outweighed by the eternity that comes after. So something that may seem so evil and here, and like the pain and suffering that was inflicted here, and I don't know, obviously nobody knows how to look at that, but a victim and how a victim looks at that, I don't know. I know though that after an eternity's time passing, the pain and suffering I may have endured here
Hmm.
will be almost like an afterthought.
Do you ever think Earth is hell? And
Yeah, I've thought that before.
like Earth is hell, and then how you act in hell is how you'll be judged afterwards.
Mm, possibly. I don't think that there's a total absence of God here on earth, and I think that's what hell will be, is like a total absence from God. But I do think that this is like a kind of like a, I don't know how to say it, but we get a glimpse of hell here, and I
Yeah.
think we get a glimpse of heaven here as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Mhm.
See, for the people maybe that are atheist, and I know some people that are atheists, they would probably tell me if after Amelia Dyer's hanging, there's, I mean, there's no life after that. She's dead, everything.
Yeah.
So if you really think about it, she kind of would have got away with all that,
Mm.
if that's true. What do you think about that?
That she got away if like just because she like death was kind of
Yeah.
like too good for her
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Well, not that
Or
too good. I mean, after you die,
she's
atheist
not
people,
gonna.
they don't exist. That never
Oh yeah,
happened. That's about millions of years past. She got away with it.
yeah. I mean,
What kind of cruel world would that be with no?
I feel
Because I
like
know revenge is bad, but there's got to be some kind of
yeah,
repercussion, right?
yeah. I feel like there does have to be some kind of repercussion, and what that is, I don't know. And how we look at repercussions after. Again, I feel like we look at everything in a very mortal light. I think that we look at everything in the ways that not how God looks at things. An entity that doesn't experience time and hunger and pain
Hmm.
and suffering. I mean, maybe he knows of it. And again, I'm speaking of ignorance here. I don't know. Maybe God understands us better than we
Yeah.
understand ourselves. So to say that, but like how we understand, to say that we understand what it's going to be like after we die is like total bogus. I think that we don't have any idea what it's going to be like
No.
and what our thought process will be towards people who've committed evil. And maybe hell is going to be something so terrible. The absence of God maybe is something so terrible that's something incomprehensible to
Well,
us.
um, like when people talk about to me, because me, I was raised Catholic. My whole families are
Yeah.
Catholic.
Yeah.
But it's just hard for me to follow the religion. I
Mhm.
like to think myself more of agnostic. I believe in God, but I don't. Religion to me just it's because when you die and let's say you go to heaven, they're not going to say, okay, Catholics over here, Christians over here, Mormons over here, Muslims over here. There is no such thing as
Yeah.
religion anymore.
Right. I think it's kind of incorrect to like categorize
Yeah, you're
everybody in
categorizing what people's beliefs and people that let's
yeah.
say from the other side of the world who don't even know anything about Jesus. They know
Mhm.
Hindu,
Mhm.
and that it's how would it be their fault? You know,
Yeah.
how would it be their fault that they never know God? Their
Yeah.
God's different
Yeah.
than what we think.
Mhm.
See, it just doesn't make sense to me. And maybe they're right and we're wrong, or we're wrong and they're right.
Yeah.
Oh
I
wait,
I
they're
have
right and we're
yeah.
wrong and we're right and they're
Well, and
wrong.
I
But
want to think of God as like a very benevolent entity and a very loving entity, which I'm sure people would love to argue with me about that just because I
mhm.
think God has done some things like in the Bible story where you would want to argue, well, let's look at Job real quick. That's the one everybody would love to cite, I think, if you've ever heard the story of Job. But um, I think that that type of perspective is impossible for us to know in this
Yeah.
time period as opposed to like maybe Job's time period. And I think there's also a lot of metaphor in the Bible, and what is metaphor and what's not metaphor is kind of tough to decipher. And
Mhm.
I think I want to believe more about how God is in terms of like his love for humanity and that he wants good things for us and he wants all that. And there's a lot of things that I know I still question. I'm not perfect and nobody is perfect. And I think it's just that you want to always be striving,
Right.
for that perfection. That doesn't mean that you will ever reach it. I don't think anybody in this lifetime will ever reach a level of perfection or
Yeah.
a level of good, that God kind of requires. And I do think that, and maybe I'm sure there's going to be listeners out there that might not agree with me, but I'm a huge believer of Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ, I think, has a huge impact on the whole way that the afterlife is going to go, and that through him that we can go back to God and be in God's presence. Uh, but I do think that there's a level of or like a level of where you'll kind of fall, because I don't think that like hell in the sense that maybe we think about it is gonna be like that. The absence of God is gonna be maybe it's gonna feel like fire. Maybe it's gonna feel like the worst pain just because the absence of God. That's the absence of good, basically.
Mm.
Um,
Well, like people
but
like the worst people in the world. What Hitler? Let's just say
Hitler.
someone
Okay,
like
sure.
Hitler. Um,
Now, if Hitler accepted, God into his heart at this time of his death, is he going to be in heaven?
See, that's the thing. That is the $1 million question right there.
Yeah.
Is he going to be accepted? Because how can you accept some? You can't just murder millions of people and then say, "Oh, well, I'm good now." Even if you do
Yeah.
truly repent, right?
Right.
Even if you truly say, "God, I wish I didn't," you still did it.
Yeah.
You killed innocent people. You had a Holocaust camp
Definitely.
and I bet there was torturers. You burned Jews. I mean, the list goes on and on about what he did.
Yeah.
Over 1 million Russians were killed in that World War II era.
Yeah.
So that's an answer that I guess only God knows. Or
Yeah, I guess only God knows. I can't say. I would like to believe that God is just, so that there would be some level of punishment for somebody who's done that level of crime.
but what kind of punishment? What can anyone?
Can is like justifiable? I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Maybe he has to go in front of everybody he ever killed.
Those are the
and
those are the
explain himself.
mysteries of the universe.
Yeah, that's a great question.
There's I feel when it comes to God, religion, there's just some questions that you just can't have the answers to.
Yeah, I don't think that we're meant to know everything.
We're not meant.
Yeah.
We're not meant to go to another universe. We're not meant to know what's happened after life and death.
Exactly.
We're
People
not-
really want to know. I really wanted to
Yeah.
know. And what I kind of came to a conclusion was exactly like we just said. You're not meant to know those questions, not to have an absolute proof, of
Yeah.
anything too. I'm not supposed to be able to prove that God exists and prove that Jesus Christ died for my sins and prove all of these things. There's a level of faith involved, which I still have a lot of questions about that. I still struggle somewhat with that just because, I think that, those who didn't hear about Jesus Christ, let's say, and they're going to get an opportunity to accept Jesus Christ in the afterlife. So once you're in the afterlife, I think that's a different perspective than when you're in mortal life.
Right.
So obviously it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to accept Jesus Christ, I'm in the afterlife here. It's like, must be true. So what level of faith what difference in level of faith do you have in immortality as in the afterlife? I feel like you have kind of proof right there once you're in the afterlife that there's something to the whole thing about what religion kind of toted.
Well, here's a question. What
Yeah.
I'm just being open-minded here, but what if you go somewhere in Indonesia or Nepal where Hinduism is really huge over there, and maybe they look at you like you're wrong?
Absolutely. No, definitely. And I think that's
like they say there is no Jesus.
Yeah.
Buddhism. Well, Buddhism is a religion, but it's more of a spirituality.
Yeah.
But what if they say there is no Jesus?
Yeah, you can't convince anybody.
Yeah.
I think that's just something you got to bear your testimony to others. And I'm not, and that's what I think I do is that I try to do at least. I hope I don't come off to anybody as preachy.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to force this down. If you want to take what I say and go and pray about it or research it and everything like that, then more power to you. And that's what I think you should do if you have any type of interest in learning more about Jesus Christ or Christianity or things like that. And I think everybody, it's like you do have kind of like a bias when you're born into it. I would say I have a huge bias, but I do think that if you search something out and you pray about it in sincerity and you're not looking just to disprove something, I think you'll get an answer through other means that are beyond this world.
Yeah. You want to see my perspective of what I think God could be? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying what it could be.
Yeah.
What if God is the universe?
He could be. He could be.
He's not human. He's just the universe. I mean,
maybe. Yeah. I don't think that like human in the sense that I do think that maybe God has like a personage of something of what humanity looks like. Because again, I gotta say, I have faith in what the Bible teaches, and that the Bible teaches that we were created in the image of God. So I think that God will have a personage of human. Maybe there's something beyond that, what the anatomy of God would entail. Who knows what that is?
Dude, my mind's going crazy right now because I want to ask so many questions. Like for instance, like you just said right now, it's a great point that you said we come from the image of God, right? Why do aliens look like that then? Yeah, or do they not look like that?
Yeah, I would say that like image of God could just mean, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, 2 eyes, a mouth. So
That's a good
perhaps
way to see it.
image of God could mean a lot of things, and maybe not look exactly human, but have like a humanoid appearance.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. But
Mhm.
yeah, for me, when it comes to religion, I respect everybody. Everyone has their own opinion, their own belief, their own mind.
Yeah,
For them
absolutely,
to believe what
absolutely.
they want.
You
I
know,
just think it's wrong when people force religion on
it
people.
is, it
I
is,
feel like
and that's the wrong way to go
if I'm,
about it. If you want somebody to
yeah,
learn more about, what
and
you
it's crazy
believe,
because a lot,
invite them to learn more, but you don't need to be like, "You're wrong,
yeah.
I'm right."
And I think it's crazy when people get upset because you don't believe what they believe. I
Mhm.
know a lot of people that are like
Mhm.
that. They just say, "Oh, you need help. Something's wrong with you." A lot of wars in this, in our not just in the world, pretty much, right? A lot of wars have started because of religions.
Because
You
of,
know, a lot
yes.
of Muslim wars have been the Palestinians and Israel has been fighting for not. This ain't
Yeah.
nothing new right
No,
now.
it's
What's happening?
hundreds
Yeah.
and hundreds of years this has been going on because of just a difference in opinion on religion. So, and obviously, I think that that's like the worst use of religion is like a use of violence, and God never intended for that.
And that's crazy that, like, I don't know, maybe lack of education, maybe, but
Yeah,
to make someone believe what you believe or say what you want them to say, I mean, yeah, you don't, that's what free will is. You're a free human being to say what you want to say and believe what you want to believe, you know?
hmm
And if nobody wants to believe what you want to believe, that's fine. And if they
yeah,
do, that's also fine.
yeah. And I
And
don't
I
think
wish the
anybody
world would
should
look at it
be.
like that more.
Yeah, I don't think anybody needs to
Because
be. Yeah,
at the end of the day, after we're long gone, you know, we're not the ones that are going to judge each other. It's going to be someone a higher power,
yeah, higher
obviously.
power. Well,
So,
yeah,
you know,
and I think that that's like one of the worst things you can do is judge
yeah,
somebody and insinuate, "Hey, you're going to go to hell because of what you believe," or something like that.
right,
I think that in itself is a greater sin, probably, than anything that person's doing.
yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Well, we're talking about Amelia Dyer, and we got into a
Yeah, we got
good
on. It's like,
combo.
is
So,
Amelia Dyer going to heaven?
yeah,
Who
that's
knows?
that. I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say I don't know.
But
You
Thomas,
know,
I love having these conversations with
yeah,
you, man. You're
me
probably
too.
one of the only people I can have a conversation like this with.
Hey, thanks,
So
man. Likewise.
I cherish everything, and I love knowing your opinion, and I love knowing how you think of certain things. So this is awesome.
Definitely. Yeah.
So anything else you want to say before we close it down, Thomas?
No, I'm good. I appreciate you, making your home available for us to do this. It's been a great time, and
Yeah.
we'll do it again real soon.
Hopefully soon we'll record, or I don't know if I want to record.
Like video?
Video,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm here in my
Yeah, it's
PJs right now.
I know. It's like no big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm down eventually. We'll get to
People
that
keep
point
asking
maybe.
me if we're just going to do YouTube.
Uh,
I'm thinking maybe later down the road we can start with Spotify.
yeah, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
We'll see. Like I said, we do this for fun. We're not doing
Yeah,
this
I
for
just feel like
anything
YouTube
else.
is probably one of the most accessible.
I believe so too.
You don't have to have. I think on Spotify you actually have to have even just a free account to
Yeah.
listen to content. You can just go onto YouTube and search things,
Right.
and you don't have to be logged into anything. And
I had a friend of mine said, "Dude, I want to get drunk with you and Thomas." I'm like, "Well, so you probably hear some interesting shit." I'll tell you
yeah,
that
it would
right
be
now.
it'd be an interesting conversation.
All right. Well, thanks everybody,
Cool.
and again, Amelia Dyer.
Yeah.
It's just a sad story.
Sad story, man. Sad story.
Very sad.
I'm glad they actually caught her. There's so many people that do like terrible things that way,
Yeah.
especially back in that time period.
Yeah.
Where they never get caught. So at least there was some justice in this world.
Yeah,
for
there
those,
is.
for those children.
Yeah, in this world, but in the next,
In the
we'll
next,
we'll have to see.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.